Lynn Lake, Manitoba. In the summer of 1963, I traveled solo around the world in 100 days. I started in Montreal, and I just started flying east, just keep on flying east. Returning to Montreal 100 days later, proving to myself that the earth is indeed round. Among the interesting places or memorable places I visited were the British Parliament, the Vienna Woods, and the Acropolis in Athens. The British Parliament is where Winston Churchill made his famous blood, sweat, and tear. I have nothing to offer but blood, sweat, and tear speech. The Vienna Woods was where Beethoven got his grand ideas about his many symphonies. Dun, 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 dun. Anybody recognize that? He probably get the idea when he was wandering the Vienna Woods. Or dee dee da 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 da. Okay. Centuries ago, Socrates and Plato engaged in philosophical dialogues in a place called Acropolis, Athens. So those are pretty inspiring and memorable places. Then in 1969, my parents, who live in Hong Kong, decided to also make a round-the-world trip. They first visited me in Washington, D.C. I took them to see the Eastern Canada and the Eastern U.S., and then to Europe. They flew back to Hong Kong. I flew back to Washington. After the trip, my father, who is a literary man, he composed, for each place he visited, he composed a poem. So there were 24 Chinese poems he composed in memory of the trip. And there are two verses in one of his poems that express the joy of travel. And those two verses says, 江山無盡千年壽，容待餘生再漫遊. So this is from my father. Express the joy of travel. Okay, so some travel memories of me and my wife in retirement. The watering pond in Pennsylvania, I think, and this is Yosemite, and then Death Valley, the Redwoods in California, and then we also Stonehenge in England, Budapest and Prague, and Blue Danube, where Johann Strauss composed the Blue Danube. Da da dee da da dun dun. Okay, and that is the Budapest. So we do travel, but COVID put our travel on hold for at least 2 years. Oh, this is a cruise to Alaska. Both of these pictures show cruise in Alaska. I was also in Beijing. Here is the National Museum of China, and that is Singapore. Okay, so just had some idea about our experiences in travel. Now, my music, as I say, travel, music, and reading. Music, my favorite is classical music. Although I also listen to popular Chinese songs, for example, 小李飛刀, 京華吹夢, 故鄉的雨, as well as popular Western music. My exposure to classical music was in the fall of 1960, during my final years of the bachelor's degree. The summer of 1961, when I first appreciated beauty, the spelling error there, the beauty, I think it looks okay. The beauty of Beethoven's Pastoral Symphony, 田園交響樂, and his heroic Emperor Piano Concerto, when I was first appreciating those, was the happiest period of my life. In October 2015, I gave a lecture here in this department entitled Classical Music Appreciation for Engineers. This lecture sums up the role classical music plays in my life. Recently, I found that the lecture is still available in YouTube. They break it up, I don't know who did that, in 3 parts because the whole thing is too long. Each part has a link, so you can still access the lecture. If you click the first link, it's part 1 and so forth. Oh, my father has 2 verses for the joy of travel. 江山無盡千年壽，容待餘生再漫遊. So I want to come up with 2 verses expressing or glorifying the joy of music. So one morning in a morning walk, I came up with these 2 verses. 仙樂無窮萬人醉，還愛來年續追尋. So it is to mirror my father's 2 verses. Unfortunately, my father is no longer around. Otherwise, I would like him to grade my 2 verses, whether it's a C, a D, or a B. I think it deserves a B. Okay. Last night, Professor Tong is so nice. He arranged to have Professor Xu Hing-Kỳ of 華南理工. He's a very good calligraphy. So the next slide, you won't believe it. I hope it shows up. Hey, this is brand new. Last night, in the common room of Fong, he just write those pair of verses, 江山無盡, etc. And then 仙樂無窮, 又錄前2句, 為李啟芳之父, 句後2句, 為李先生. He shouldn't call me 李先生, right? 李先生續. These are those Chinese years which I never could figure out. So what is this year? What 葵柳東月. Okay. So it's really very nice. You cannot get it even if you.
Maybe I can add a little bit more.
Pardon?
Maybe I can add a little bit more information. Okay. 佢係褚遂良嘅後人。
褚遂良嘅後. So to have him write this is something more an honor, something totally expected. Yeah.
I think your elder brother loves to write 褚遂良.
My brother.
Your elder brother.
My elder brother, yeah. My elder brother is an excellent calligrapher. 佢有冇教你？佢教譚善冰書法啊？
佢哋國內咧叫先生咧，其實好尊重你，就要叫你做先生嘅。
哦，
即係升其實好高嘅，唔係個個係叫做先生。男士女士可以叫先生。
So So this is more worth more than what your lab pay me to come here.
Of course. And you should keep it. It will actually.
Okay. Okay. Well, I like to visit places where the famous physicians once lived or are now buried. So the first two are the Mozart place, Salzburg in Austria, and this is Vienna, Auschwitz, I guess. This is Beethoven's statue, and this is Johann Strauss, the Blue Danube of Blue Danube fame. And okay, I don't know whether you have heard of a composer named Sibelius. Anybody heard of Sibelius? He's a Finnish composer. He composed the Finlandia, 芬蘭頌, a very patriotic thing. Well, he had other stuff, of course. So when I was in Helsinki, this is the park, it's called Sibelius Park, and this is the house that he lived. It becomes a museum, and this might be the piano that he played. So I like to do those kind of, I guess, real things. In San Francisco, I used to go to concerts in San Francisco quite a bit. In San Francisco Symphony Hall, the Opera House, this in San Jose. The Andrew Rao Orchestra is very good, both popular and classical. You can find it on YouTube also. This is a prodigy who came to San Jose. But COVID, again, I haven't been to a live concert for a while now. Okay. Despite having listened to classical music since 1960, that must be a while ago, I continue to make new discoveries of beautiful pieces. Because, as I said before, besides classical music, I also discovered some lovely and sentimental songs in bygone eras, both Western and Chinese. A few examples. So there's a links over here for those of you who like to find out what they are. The first one is When You and I Were Young, famous American folk song in the mid-1980s, very nostalgic. Lorena, most popular song during American Civil War, both romantic and nostalgia. We Will Meet Again, made famous by the singer Valerie Lynn in World War II, very sentimental song. Just, so those of you interested, you can take a look by going to the links. Popular Chinese song, 小李飛刀, everybody knows that. 京華春夢, perhaps not so well known. Do you know 京華春夢? Oh, you do? Okay. What about 故鄉的雨? Okay. You should click on the link to 故鄉的雨. So I'm not totally one-sided, not just Western classical. Okay. I enjoy these Chinese songs as well. Okay, some classical music that I discovered more recently. One by Mozart, one by Schubert, one a chorus by Verdi. So for those of you who are not used to classical music, click on any one of those. See whether it turns you off or turns you on. If you don't like any of this, then you probably don't like classical music. If you like at least one of them, you have some hope. Okay, some statistics projects. In other words, I don't just listen. I listen to specific pieces, but I also have some specific projects. For example, J.S. Bach, he wrote many cantatas. Cantata 中文叫做清唱曲. So he wrote some 200 of them. And I want to be familiar with at least a good portion of it. So one project is that, to get familiar with a good number of Bach cantatas. So if I listen to one a week, it probably take me 3 years. Okay. Another project has to do with the symphonies of Gustav Mahler. I don't know whether you have heard of Mahler. Okay, about 2 years ago, I came across a survey in which 100 prominent conductors were asked to rate the symphonies of various composers, Beethoven, Mozart, Schubert, Mahler, Sibelius, and so forth. Mahler wrote 9 symphonies. At that time, I was familiar with something like 3 of them. What surprised me was, in that survey, a couple of Mahler's symphonies that I was not familiar with came up on top of some of my Beethoven favorite symphonies. So I was puzzled and say, let me find out why these Mahler symphonies are so highly rated. So for the last 2 years, I just keep on listening to these Mahler symphonies, drive my wife mad. But after a while, even he began to think they are pretty good, right? Yeah, so now he is also a fan of the Mahler symphonies. So that's one example of what I call project. Sibelius is a guy who just wrote symphonies. Well, actually wrote other stuff, but he has some, I think he wrote 8 symphonies. And they are also very good. Oh, a couple of quotes about music. Interesting. Charles Darwin, in The Descent of Man, said, music notes were first acquired for the sake of charming the opposite sex. Do you agree? So it originated because we want to charm the opposite sex. So that's how music first arose. But on a more serious note, Plato says, music gives a soul to the universe, wings to the mind, flight in the imagination, and life to everything. So that's from Plato. Okay, now I have talked about travel and music, now reading. I began to develop an interest in reading books not related to engineering in the summer of 1961. I stumbled upon the works of Russian masters of the 19th century, Tolstoy, Chekhov, Dostoevsky, Turgenev. I read many of their masterpieces. For example, War and Peace, The Cherry Orchard, that's by Chekhov, not listed here. Crime and Punishment, Brothers Karamazov by Dostoevsky. Spring Torrents by Turgenev. I was also fascinated by the speeches that shook the world, especially those of Churchill, Franklin Roosevelt, and John Kennedy. and also got a glimpse of the teaching of Socrates, as told in the book Plato's Complete Works by Henry Drake. Over the years, my interest in reading has not waned, but I only have a limited number of time in my working years to read books outside engineering. This changed when I retired in 2011. In retirement, I devote a good portion of my working hours in listening to music and in reading. Among the books read in early retirement were a 6-volume The Arctic Adventure series by Alexander Dumas, who was the author of Mount Crystal, right? 基督山恩仇記. So that one I read some time ago. But this 6-volume adventure begins with 三劍俠, the Three Musketeers, and ended with the